What's up, guys? Bill here, and in this video I'm going to talk about imbalances. What are they, how to spot them on a chart, and how to trade them. So imbalances happen quite simply when there's too many of one type of order. So there's a ton of people buying and there's not enough people selling, or vice versa. And the reason these are great to use in trading is the idea that the market, it wants to be balanced, right? That's why we have market makers, to create liquidity, to make sure things are balanced, try their best to keep everything in balance. And so when an imbalance occurs, there's a good chance that price is going to come back and retest and gravitate towards the imbalance that's created. And we can use that to our advantage. But first we have to learn how to spot them on the chart. So let's take a look at SPY here. I'm on the 15-minute. You can intraday, I'll switch between 5, 10, 15. They can all work for finding imbalances. Even the hourly, obviously with the hourly and the higher up you go, they might take longer to play out. It might take longer for price to come back there and retest and all that. But what we see oftentimes is the continuation of the trend. So if the imbalance is created by a big move to the upside, a bullish imbalance, then you can pull back, test that area, and then continue higher. And this is what we see here on SPY, okay? On the 15-minute, we get this big candle up on relative volume. That's one thing I look for, right? Like you could say, well, Bill, isn't this an imbalance too? And yeah, it kind of is. And it might come into play later, maybe even another day from now. But because it was on decreasing volume, I'm not as interested in the candle. I do want to see some type of nice relative volume on the candle, a big stick, as you'd call it, with little to no wick, all right, on the top, or if it's a bearish candle, on the bottom. And you can see that relative volume there. And so what we do, how do we play this? Well, first we need to identify the zone of the imbalance that was created. So I like to draw boxes, and on this bullish imbalance, we're going to start from the top of the previous candle, and we're going to go to the bottom of the following candle. And this is going to be your imbalance. Now, it's a bullish imbalance, so I like to color it green. If it's bearish, I color it red. That's just me. Now, how do you execute this? Well, there's a couple options, right? This is where it comes down to your preference. I personally like to see the imbalance be filled, meaning this box is filled, like on this wick here, okay? That would be where I'd look to enter. After this imbalance was filled, I would look to take calls. Some people will play the top of the box. Some people will get it in the middle and kind of split the difference. They can all work, right? We look at this setup here. There's a lot of respect in this imbalance that's created. Price, every time it comes back in, it bounces out. And then eventually, at the end of the day, a really nice strong move into close, right? So this is why we like to use these imbalances. Price often gravitates towards them and respects them and fills and continues. Now, also, these imbalances can be used in the opposite way. They can be used as price targets. So let's say that this big imbalance was created, but price just kept going all day, and this was never filled. The next day we could open way up here and think about taking puts to target a move back to this imbalance, you know, down here, right? It could be a put target from up here the next day. Oftentimes you see, like I said, price will gravitate back towards these imbalances to correct itself. And so you can use it in two ways. You can use it as pullback entries for continuation of a trend. You can use it as targets for, you know, playing against the trend or just the opposite direction as a good price target. Okay. Now, speaking of times when sometimes an imbalance is created, but not tested that same day and it carries over. Let's look at the 16th on QQQ. There's a really nice bearish imbalance created here. See the volume compared to the previous couple candles. Notable, very little wick on this big stick down. What are we going to do? We're going to draw our box from the bottom of the previous candle to the top of the following candle. And you can see that it gets tested a little bit, but it's right near the end of the day. And there's not enough time to really fill it and really fully test it, right? It rejects early and gets a nice little scalp. So if you were aggressive with this and you're somebody who likes to maybe take your entry, even once we get into the imbalance a little bit, that would have worked out for you. But like I said, I like to let them fill. So look what happens here. The next day in pre-market, we start to fill it. And we pretty much top out right at the top, the wicks over the top and closing under. And yeah, this is way lighter volume. I don't put as much, trust into pre-market action as open. But then what happens on open? Wick right to the top, flush. All right. So these things can work. This is an unfilled gap basically. And price wants to come back, even if it takes a day or sometimes more. And the higher time frame you go up, if you start finding imbalances on the 1 hour, 4 hour, or daily, you'll notice that sometimes days go by and then you get a retest. There's a good example of that from recently, and it's on NVIDIA on the daily. Check out this stick. I mean, I'm sure you guys all remember this day NVIDIA just ripped, right? Huge stick up, very little wick. Nice relative volume compared to the previous days. What would we do? We would draw our box. And look what happens. 4 days later, we open here in the middle of the box, pull all the way down, fully fill it, and hold it, and then get a huge, nice green day out of NVIDIA. If you hopped in somewhere around here, we can look at it on a smaller time frame. Let's say that you were watching this setup and you wanted to see this fill, and it fills and then comes back in, retest, holding. You could get in somewhere around here, seeing that the imbalance has been filled, and now it looks like price is starting to reverse and there's buyers stepping in, these big wicks down. Look at all these wicks down. You can enter here and look at the move you could have caught, all from spotting the imbalance on the daily, the super higher time frame, and just kind of waiting. Set an alert maybe, like I want to see it fill. So maybe I would set an alert for the bottom of this box. And then on that Friday, I'd get an alert. Oh, look, NVIDIA's filling the imbalance. And then you just, you're patient and you look for your entry, right? But these can happen on all these time frames. So this is how I've been using imbalances lately. I found that they're really reliable. They can work really well in conjunction with other strategies, which I'm going to talk about in the future. In a future video, I'm going to talk about how I'm taking imbalances and using them with fibs to really get great entries. So hopefully that helps, guys. If you have any questions, just let me know.